The weekly time spent in hours on homework for 18 randomly selected high school students is below. Find the sample mean, sample standard deviation, and construct a 99% confidence interval for the population mean. Assume the population is normally distributed. For this problem, I'm going to use Google Spreadsheets. You could use Excel, or you can also use a TI-84 or TI-83. However, I am going to use Google Spreadsheets since it's a software that's available to anyone. So first, we're going to go to Google Spreadsheets and we're going to enter in our data into one column. Here I have all my data points entered into the first column of A. So the first thing let's do is let's calculate the mean. In your cell that you want your mean to be placed in, type an equal, and then if you recall, we're going to use the function average. Click on the average function, and then we're going to highlight our cells. Press enter, and that's going to be our mean. Next, let's calculate the standard deviation. In the cell that you want your standard deviation, type in equals, and then STD, standard deviation, and then we're going to highlight our data. So we've calculated the mean, now we've calculated the standard deviation. Next, let's calculate the margin of error to start constructing our confidence interval. Now recall that the formula for the margin of error is the t critical value times the standard deviation divided by the square root of n. We're going to have to type in this formula into our cell. To get the t critical value, you're going to use the t inverse function. T inverse. Notice here that it asks for the probability. For this part, you want to type in 1 minus the confidence interval. Make sure your confidence interval is in decimal form. Comma, then your degrees of freedom. Remember that your degrees of freedom is n minus 1. In this case, we have 18 for n, so the degrees of freedom is 17. Now we take that t inverse function and we're going to multiply it by the standard deviation. So I'm going to click on the cell for my standard deviation. Then we're going to divide it by the square root, click on the square root function, of n. N is the number of cells in my data, which is 18. Press enter. So here we have our margin of error. Now for the confidence interval, I'm going to have a lower limit and I'm also going to have an upper limit. And these are the two endpoints, the one on the lower side and the one on the upper side. The one on the lower side is going to be equal to the mean minus the margin of error. The one on the upper is going to be equal to the mean plus the margin of error. So here you can see I have my confidence interval of 10.995 or 10.996, 13.393. So again, we found using Google Spreadsheets that the mean was equal to 12.194. The standard deviation was equal to 1.755, and the confidence interval for 99% level of confidence was equal 10.996, 13.393.